Welcome, everyone. This is episode 49 of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast. I'll be your host this week. My name is Amari Brown. I'm a part of the team here at Pinstriped Prospects. I'm the Tampa Tarpons beat writer. And on this week, I have an illustrious panel of Mr. Paul Pagnato III. How you doing today, Paul?
Doing great. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing very great. I'm happy to have you on. Then our Scranton beat writer, Tommy Romanelli. How you doing, Tommy?
Good. How you doing, Amari?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you on, Tommy. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Matt Cardos, our Trenton Thunder beat writer. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing tonight, Amari?
I'm doing good. All right, guys. Minor league season is going to be starting this week. But before we get into all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about what the big club and what the major league team has been going through. So the Yankees, they had a very eventful offseason. They added the reigning NL MVP and Giancarlo Stanton, and they had a very successful opening day. And it started off with a bang with Giancarlo introducing himself to Yankee Nation with 2 home runs. So what did you guys think about the opening series up in Toronto? Paul, we'll start off with you.
Oh, I thought the first 2 games went pretty well, and I thought the second 2 games had something left to be desired. Stanton hit 2 homers his first game, very, very impressive, and really looking forward to seeing some power coming from his bat this year, as he's shown throughout his career. I actually kind of look for him to move to the lead to batting second. I think that's something that manager Aaron Boone is going to consider as time moves forward, slotting Judge third and Stanton second. So that would be something interesting to keep an eye on out.
Okay. All right. That wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Tommy, what are your thoughts and takeaways from the opening series?
Yeah, so I thought it was a productive series, even though they split and they probably should have won it. The things that I was looking for, especially early on, just to get the beat of what the team is looking like, is how was the bottom of the order producing, and what was the starters doing? I mean, the 2 losses came because of hiccups with the bullpen, which if any part of the team is going to be struggling at this point of the year, I want it to be the bullpen because it's the part I'm most sure of at this point. But the positive signs were they put up runs when they needed to, and the bottom of the order produced. And the starters, while they haven't given length, they've all given fairly decent starts. So I think that's extremely important for this team to be successful this year and exceed the expectations that people already have for them. So I actually took a lot of positives out of the opening weekend, and it was fun to watch.
Good. That's an interesting take. Matt, what do you have to add?
Kind of want to build, I kind of want to build off of what Tommy just kind of said. I think you have to be happy about the kind of secondary cast of guys contributing in a big way in that first series. You hear a lot about Gary Sanchez, Stanton, Judge, and those are kind of the cornerstone pieces that are expected to carry the load. But you really haven't seen Drury before this season. He had a bunch of big hits and drove in some runs in that series. Tyler Austin had some big hits. Tyler Wade, guys like that contributing in a big way. And it's going to be super important for guys, especially when we've seen already how often injuries are going to occur during the course of the season. They've already had to bring up McKinney and Andahar to fill in roles and to slot into places where they probably didn't expect to have to be in so soon. So I think it's going to be super important for that secondary cast of guys, especially early on, to kind of establish and kind of set a foot into the clubhouse with this group of guys, especially early on. I mean, Gary Sanchez, really, you really got nothing out of him in that first series. So there's going to be times where guys slump, and you're going to need those secondary guys to pick up the slack. So I think it was good that they contributed and showed that they could do that. The one worry that I would have, and I think Paul could kind of follow me after this, but I'd obviously be worried about Dellin Betances. Not a good second half last season. Lots of struggles. Stuff is still there. I mean, the velo's there. The stuff's there. At this point, it looks like it's more of a mental thing for him than anything. And I don't know if it's kind of just a domino or kind of like an avalanche just continuing on from last season, or if it's just something that he's going to have to work through and fix as time goes on. But he's a necessary cog in that bullpen. I think the Yankees bullpen is lauded for how good they are, and he's a big reason that they have such a claim in that bullpen. So if he's not going to be right, and if he's not going to be a guy you can rely on, that Yankees bullpen really isn't that far apart from a lot of other bullpens in the league. So he's a guy that definitely needs to be Dellin Betances in order for the Yankees to go where they want to go.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said it. It's a perfect segue. So today I got a little stat for you guys, and then we could talk on this. So up to this point, up until Adam Warren's appearance today, the Yankees bullpen pitched to 17 1/3 innings. They've given up 17 hits, 14 earned runs, and 4 homers. So now I know, Tommy, you were saying that, at least, the bullpen is like the sure thing. So if it's going to struggle, now is the time to do it. But I want to get, how worried should we be? So, Paul, I'll start with you.
I'm not too overly concerned. The starting pitching staff needs to do a better job of getting deep into games, first and foremost. You're going to have to protect that bullpen because that bullpen is going to be stretched thin as September, October turns around. That's my biggest concern right now. It's not necessarily the numbers of the bullpen. Betances, I think he's going to be okay. He's a 4-time All-Star. He's been an All-Star every year he's been in the big leagues for a full season. As Matt said, yes, it is a little concerning. He was practically unusable towards the stretch of last year, and it does seem like it's between his ears. And that's kind of been the knock since he was coming up in the Yankee system, and that's why he's not a starter. I'm not concerned about him yet. He admitted that he grooved the fastball just to get a first pitch strike. So that was one of the home runs right there out of the 4. And then, I'm a little more concerned about David Robertson, to be honest, than Betances. But I think both of them are going to be just fine.
If I could just build off of that, and I think to that point that you kind of opened with, in the point where the starters need to go deeper into games to alleviate the pen, I think the Yankees knew that, and I think that's why they built the bullpen the way they did, knowing that they don't have as strong of a starting rotation as a lot of other teams, and they kind of dabbled in that starting pitching market throughout the offseason, and they never really pulled the trigger on one of the big fishes in that free agent pool because they were so confident in that bullpen. So if you're not going to have that bullpen perform up to expectations, it's kind of hard to ask the starters give you the production that really they weren't relied on to give or expected to give. So obviously you're going to be asking the starters to go a little bit deeper. But CC was pretty much a 5-6 inning pitcher last year. Obviously Severino you can rely on, but a lot of the guys at the bullpen, you don't know how deep they can go. I think you're relying on them to get you through 6 on a good day. But if they can't get you at least 6 and you have to dive into that bullpen, I think the Yankees were expecting to use that bullpen quite a bit. So I think to like you said, to your point, if the bullpen's not going to be what you expected, the starters are definitely going to have to go a little bit deeper than maybe the Yankees thought they would.
Honestly, I don't think that depth is going to be a huge problem this year. I mean, you saw it in he pitched into the 8th inning. I think he got an out there into the 8th. And, Tanaka and Sonny Gray, I think are going to be huge for this team this year. They have the ability to pitch deeper than the 6th inning as long as they keep their pitch counts under control. I think it'd be more so CC and Jordan Montgomery, whatever they're going to give you. I don't see, Robertson. I mean, he's a pro. He knows exactly what he's doing. I don't foresee any of his struggles this past weekend carrying over to the rest of the season. So honestly, I really don't think that that's going to be too much of an issue. And it's also something to remember is it was week 1. So you saw guys coming out with 80 pitches, early 90 pitches, and they don't stretch them. So as April wears on, I think that they're going to be okay. They're going to pitch deeper into the game, and all those concerns will take care of themselves.
Agreed.
Yep, and I agree with all you guys to a certain extent. I know that a lot of people were, kind of coming at Aaron Boone because Sevy, it for the most part, it can't always just be about the pitchers. You have to look at how the guys, you have to use the eye test, like Paul and I said last week. Severino was cruising. I understand that you don't want to push him. So was Tanaka. Tanaka had just retired 13 batters in a row. So I think, those games don't even get to the bullpen, what next month or the end of this month. So I don't think that we really have anything to worry about. But what what we do always talk about is how deep this organization is. And we're seeing that this 25-man roster for the Major League roster isn't just 25 deep. It's probably 30 to 35 deep. So I just want to run through some of the injuries. Aaron Hicks was put on the DL with an intercostal strain. So that's in his abdominal region. He said today that he should be back by the Boston series. Billy McKinney, who was called up, he has an AC shoulder strain too in his second game after getting his first major league hit. So there's a couple things. There's a couple things in there that that has really shown the Yankees' depth. What can you guys say on that?
I can go first. The depth right now is being tested. You see the moves that had to be made. Cody Ashe, Trace Thompson, guys like that. We've had to go outside the organization to pull guys in to pad that depth a little bit. Obviously we have Clint Frazier down. As you mentioned, Ellsbury, Hicks. We have three outfielders. You're seeing Aaron Judge in center field. So obviously when you see Judge in center field, that's never a good sign. And your fourth outfielder right now is Ronald Torreyes. That is a little bit concerning to me. Aaron Hicks does have a decent past with injuries. So same with Ellsbury. So, I am slightly concerned about the outfield depth because you don't want to run Stanton and Judge out there every single day, especially with Aaron in center.
Gotcha. Those are all great points, and we're going to head to Tommy really quick, but first we're going to get a word from our sponsors. Attention cancer victims. If you or a loved one lived, worked, or visited Lower Manhattan in the months after the 9/11 attacks and have been diagnosed with cancer, federal benefits and health care may be available. Attorney Eddie Markowitz has helped many families recover substantial benefits from the September 11th Victims Compensation Fund. The James Zadraga Health and Compensation Act has been extended, but time is limited. Attorney Markowitz is proud to serve as counsel to the Zadraga family. Let him help you too. These benefits are not just for rescue workers, but to anyone who qualifies. The fund covers many cancers, including prostate, skin, lung, and breast. Please call 1-800-LAW-HELP. That's 1-800-LAW-HELP to see if you qualify. Now, Tommy, we were talking about the Yankees' depth and organization and where we currently stand right now. What are your takes on that? What did you like about the players that are called up? And it's kind of like a next man up philosophy that we have working right now.
Yeah, it's been an interesting dynamic to start the season because I think about 3 weeks ago when we saw the depth chart, I mean, we were wondering why Shane Robinson was even signed because they were so deep in outfielders. Now they need them extremely in a bad way. So it's been awful with all the injuries that they've had, but like you said, it's a chance for somebody else to step up. And right now, I think that they're kind of just piecing it together until I guess Aaron Hicks would be the next person back. But it's giving an opportunity for Tyler Wade to maybe play a little bit more than they decided in the early going. Neil Walker's getting a little bit more experience at first because of it, and Giancarlo is getting a lot more reps in the outfield, which actually I think is pretty important because if they can get serviceable defense from Giancarlo in left and Judge in right, then this team is going to have a lot of avenues to get at bats for different guys. So one guy in particular, Miguel Andujar, he was a bat that got called up way faster than anybody expected him to. And now where it didn't seem like he would have had a spot in this team, you have Giancarlo playing left. He's going to get the at-bats that he needs, and eventually he could end up forcing himself into a starting role where that's a regular thing. So I think that it gives an opportunity for the Yankees to see what they have in certain players. But obviously, I think that they're really holding their breath and hoping that a lot of these players come back soon.
Yeah, for sure. And Matt, anything to add?
Nothing more to really add. I think it's funny that all winter, especially you go on Twitter, you see all the Yankee fans and couldn't get rid of Jacoby Ellsbury fast enough. They wanted him a mile away from the team, and now he'd probably almost be a welcome addition to add a guy like that back on your roster. Like Tommy and Paul said, the roster and the depth has certainly been tested more than I think they ever expected. I think the one thing you have to look to is like Tommy said, you look to that depth chart even 2 or 3 weeks ago and see Jay Cave on that roster and Jabari Blash and guys like that who you really didn't expect to maybe even contribute at all to the major league level, more just as Scranton depth. And obviously they moved Blash to the Angels and sent Cave away to the Twins. But you have to wonder if those guys would probably have gotten opportunities before McKinney and guys like this up on the big league team had they decided to hold on to them. So just goes to show you that you can never have too much depth at any position because you can never predict injuries and you never know when they're going to happen.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And that's why, leading into this year when, certain media outlets would ask Brian Cashman, is this the finished product that we're going to see? A good GM can never, you can never be comfortable because things can change in the blink of an eye, like we've seen. And just to inform everyone out there, Aaron Boone actually announced yesterday that they're going to shut Jacoby Ellsbury down because he's having a hip issue right now. So Jacoby Ellsbury is probably not going to be an option for a while. I know that's a welcoming sound to some Yankees fans, but he could be used right now. And Clint Frazier seems to be progressing. He's still in Tampa, fighting through some post-concussion symptoms. But all right, so that's we covered what the major league team is going through right now. Now we get to our bread and butter. So I want to start with Mr. Tommy Romanelli. You had the opportunity to be at Media Day, and you also had the opportunity to speak with first-time manager Bobby Mitchel. And you actually have audio from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut to Tommy's interview with Scranton RailRider manager Bobby Mitchel.
Bobby, for players, it's always about going up to the organization, going up to the ranks. For you, it's the same path, too, going from AA to AAA. How excited are you to be here at the RailRiders this year?
Real excited. I've always been a Yankee fan, even growing up. I was a big Yankee fan, even though I was from the West Coast. I was a big Dodger Yankee fan. And so this is a great opportunity for not only the players but me coming here. And I've not heard nothing but good things about the team, the setting, how it's run, the town itself. So it's real exciting for us to get started.
You've been in the organization. How impressed were you? The Yankees have had a lot of good young players. What's impressed you about the organization and the talent that they've been bringing through?
I've been doing this a while, so I've been through different organizations, and this is probably the most talented organization that I've ever been in, up and down each level. I mean, when I was in AA, we'd lose guys to come here, and they did really well here, which was really gratifying, and then even in New York, and then guys would come up from High A or wherever they came up from, and they'd just fit right into our team in AA. So it's the same, when I look at the team in AA coming up here, if we need somebody, it's going to be the same this year too. So the talent level is very elite, and you don't see this every day. You really don't.
Talk about the talent level from like AA. They think of it as a prospect league. AAA, you're going to get a more mature type guy in there. You have a combination of young skill, but also some veteran guys like Kratzy and Peterson and those guys.
Right. I think that helps a lot. It helps the young guys a lot to see how these older guys react to the league. You're going to face some veteran guys in this league. Even anytime you're in AAA, it's a good experience for the young guys to see that and prepare them for the big league level. So we all know that when they get to the big league level, it's all about winning, and it should be. And so here we got to prepare them and develop them enough, both on and off the field, which the veteran guys will help that, and prepare them to be able to compete up there and help the team win there.
Opening day is exciting, and yet your lineup is far from finish. There's a lot of work to be done between now and assuming we play on Friday.
Yeah, right now we're only at 9 position players, with Peyton beyond the DL and so forth, and we're going to miss him a lot for a couple months, I think, because he's had surgery on his knee. But we're waiting. I know the New York offices are working on getting us guys to fill in the void. and we don't really know who they're going to be, but they're working on it, and it'll be done in the next couple of days because we open up on Friday, hopefully, weather permitting. So we're kind of waiting around to see what's going to happen, and welcome anybody that comes in. And I know the character of our players and the character of our team right now is really good, and we just got Oliver Perez coming in, and everybody welcomed him, and he's a welcome addition to our staff. So it looks like we're just kind of in a waiting game right now.
Seems like you get into a routine in baseball. How much changes it when you get used to new change of play pace rules or anything like that at the minor league levels for the coaches and also for the players who are so used to something?
Yeah, it's a little different, but we have a lot of players that can play a lot of different positions, which is versatility helps every player, and helps each team. So they're going to be playing different positions throughout the season, just to make them more valuable for the big league club when they need somebody. You look at Tyler Wade, who's up there right now. He's a prime example of how versatile he can be and how valuable he can be at the big league level. And real happy for him making the team, and look forward to big things from him during the year. But he can play anywhere, And so with Miggy going up, Andujar going up, it was I think the thinking probably was that if an outfielder went down, because McKinney unfortunately hurt himself, that Wade could probably go out and play the outfield. So it'll be an interesting year to see some of the guys mature at different positions.
Talk about versatility with Gleyber being a young player, a shortstop by trade, yet he can play a couple different positions. How is he adapting to that short time you had him last year?
He is. He's going to play a lot of short and second. Right now I think we're going to try to split it half and half. Because for one, I don't think he's going to play short in the big leagues right now with Didi there. So second base is always an option. Even maybe third base. He's played third base some. But right now, I think he's going to concentrate on the middle of the infield. He's very good at short. Plays really well, has really good hands and a good arm, and so he needs work at second base just so that he can get that value, and the big league club will be comfortable putting him there, I'm sure. So when he goes up there, so. He's got a lot of work to do, and he knows it, so he's going to be prepared just like everybody else to go up there and help the big league club.
For you, coming up from Double-A last year, is it help, even though you're adjusting to a new situation, that these are a lot of the guys that you have had in the past couple of years, knowing that familiarity is the same as now you're jumping to a different organization? Yeah,
it really does. I mean, especially I think from expectations from me as a manager, and also knowing the pitching staff. I think that's huge, really, because a lot of these pitchers, most of them has gone through Double-A, and I've had them, and I have a relationship with them, and I respect every one of these guys and what they do. And you're not going to go out there and have a great night every night, but I think that I try to instill the fact that I have a lot of confidence in them no matter what day it is, even if it's a day after they didn't pitch real well. So knowing them and knowing their personalities, because they're all different, a lot of the pitchers are different, and it's just a matter of how they handle the adversity and how you handle the adversity really in front of them, because they see what you do all the time as a manager, and I'm not talking about just pitchers, but position players. How do you react to stuff, and hopefully they react in the same way if you're going to be positive.
Speaking of pitching staff, do you have a rotation set at all to start the year?
We'll be Chance will pitch opening day, then Sessa, and then it's kind of up in the air right now. Hale, I think, is third, and then you got Herman. I think he's going to pitch fourth, and then fifth is kind of right now. I'm not really sure, so it's hard to. Those guys are pretty much set, and then we'll go from there. And then we have like I think 15 pitchers on our roster right now, so we have a lot of versatility.
So you're one step closer to the majors. Do you feel like your job changes at all because the next step up is New York?
No, I don't think so. I think I approach it the same no matter where I am. I've done AAA with the Angels for 3 years, back in 2008 through 10, which is good for me to have that experience coming into this, even though it's always a unique situation no matter where you are. But I think that, and I've been very, very, very fortunate to have players that are good people, and it's no different here. They know how to work They know how to react to different situations. They know how to be professional, really, and I think that's very important as a staff. It makes our job a lot easier.
Bobby, what kind of plans do you guys have to cover the outfield for the time being?
Right now, it'll be Robinson and Zahner probably in left, and then McBroom probably in right. And McBroom, he has not played a lot of outfield. Like in Double-A, he didn't play any outfield for me, but he did play winter ball in the outfield some, and the time I saw him in the spring training games, he looked pretty good. So I think he'll be, in fact, surprisingly good sometimes. So he's a good athlete. He had a really good spring, especially offensively and so forth, and he's a really good first baseman. So he might, once we find out who we get in addition the next couple of days as an outfielder, he would probably spell Ford at first and 40 will DH some. And so he's done well, and I expect him to be at least adequate out there.
Even though there's been so much roster change the past few days with people going up to the bigs, I mean, you got guys coming back from the Rule 5 draft like Mike Ford and Gomez, and you still have Gleyber Torres and some good prospects. I mean, just talk to the talent of this team and the potential that you guys have.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's changed a lot since the beginning of spring, really, in a good way, because we weren't sure that Tyler Wade was going to make the team, and he did a great job in spring, and they really liked him, and he made the team, which is what we're trying to do, to get the guys up to the big leagues to help. And then we had the injuries. With Frazier down, and with the concussion syndrome that he has, we're not sure when he's going to be back. I know that he's doing some baseball activity, and he's getting semi-close, but there's the issue that we heard that he, with concussions, you get underneath lights versus sunshine. It's a whole different thing. It can affect you in a negative way sometimes. So he's got to go through some more testing and so forth and get out. He'll be a big addition for us. We lost Cave, going. We've lost some guys that were going to start the season with us. But we still have a lot of talent on the team, with Gleyber, and if Andahar comes back, and then you got Higgy coming back from injury last year. You got McBroom, you got Ford, you got guys like Peterson and Robinson coming in from other organizations, so that have some experience. You got Kratz as a backup, so and then you got some guys from Double-A that had decent years. So it could, who knows exactly how it's going to end up by the end of the month or whatever. But right now we're satisfied with what we have, and we'll go into it, and like we always do, and battle to play as hard as we can while we're on the field and see what happens.
Last year, the bullpen was a big strength with guys like Heller, Gallegos, and Gomez coming up at the end. It's another, you look at the roster, it's another strong suit for you guys again this year. Just the bullpen, it feels like something that it could be you guys can rely on it when the roster is changing so much. It'll be as stable. Yeah,
and we all know that pitching, really, I'm a firm believer in pitching and defense wins ball games. We're going to hit, but we're not going to hit every day because no new team really does. But the pitching and the defense, if we can do that, we'll be fine. And we have a lot of good arms. I mean, Cody Carroll coming up from Double-A threw really well for us, especially the last half of the season. And you got Kosho here. You got a lot of different pitchers here that are. You got Gio. You got all these guys that have had some experience here, and it's good. I mean, they have experience, and they're really good pitchers, and Tommy Phelps does a great job with them, preparing them for the game and so forth. And it's fun to see these guys, like a lot of them I had already, and it's fun to see them succeed at this level. It's a whole different level, really, from a pitching and a hitting standpoint. So you got, like you said, a lot of veteran guys. They're not going to swing at some of the pitches out of the zone as much as maybe in Double-A. But I really think the biggest jump is from high A to Double-A, and then once you get to Double-A, you start to weed people out, and then once you get up here, you have to make adjustments, and as a hitter or a pitcher. So these guys have shown they can, and look forward to using a lot of them actually throughout the season.
Speaking of Phelps and Plantier, what is your thoughts on your coaching staff? You guys got some time to get adjusted during spring training.
Yeah, funny. I know Tommy from way back because he was actually a player when I first started coaching with the Expos. So, good pitcher, knows how to pitch. I've seen him before. So, a great guy. And then Phil, I just got to know. He's from San Diego too, so I got to know him a little bit. And then he's very unique and does a really good job. Also, Travis Chapman, who's going to be our defensive coach, is really good too. He's on top of everything. Does a really good job with the infielders. I'll work with the outfielders and the base running and so forth, because that's what I've done most of my career as a coordinator. So I think we have a great combination of people and staff members, and we get along great. And we all know the expectations are high, and nobody's going to work harder than we will, and hopefully the players too.
When you say Phil is unique, how so as a person, as a coach?
You know, he's got a lot of insight on a lot of different things. You know, he's not only mechanical, but just preparing. You know, for games and seeing, you know, what pitchers are trying to do to you and just figuring all that stuff out. He's very analytical in swings and the way things work for him and for hitters and so forth. So and he's very open and good relationship with the players in spring training. So he does a really good job of both physical and mechanical, and then using the thinking part of it too.
Do you guys have a timetable on Gio or Heller?
Heller's a question mark because we're not sure. You know, he had some like bone chips, I think, in his elbow. Bone spurs. So we're not sure exactly what they're going to do with him. Gio's fine, really. I think just got to be careful because it's his groin, and sometimes groins will be chronic, you know. And he had some issues last year with it, so. But he says he feels fine. We just got to be careful with it and make sure that he doesn't hurt it again, because once you hurt it again, it could be longer, and then you want to come back and you hurt it again, and the next thing you know, you're out months instead of just maybe a couple of weeks. So got to be careful with him.
Do you have a lineup in mind yet for opening?
I was looking at it, and I only have 9 players, so it's kind of hard to. It's just trying to put them in the right order, actually, you know. But with the not knowing the new guys coming in yet, it's kind of hard to position each guy. I'd like to hopefully get more speed at the top of the lineup, just because I like to run if I can, you know, and put pressure on the other team. I'm pretty aggressive. Try to be aggressive enough with the team you got, but I think that, you know, obviously Glaber's going to hit up there close to the top of the lineup, along with, you know, right now Ford will probably hit 4th. I'm not sure everybody else exactly. Higgy will hit up there too, but it's just hard to say because we need 2 players, really. We need an infielder and an outfielder, really, so it's hard to say who we get. There's been rumor about some different guys throughout spring, and it's really nice to have like an outfielder that has some speed. See what happens.
Is there an update on Tyro Estrada yet?
You know, he's coming along good. I just don't know when he's going to be available. He was our MVP last year, in my opinion, you know, in AA. He was, you know, day in and day out. He was able to perform really well. He's driven. He works his butt off. He deserves to be here, and he will. I'm pretty sure as soon as he gets well. It's an unfortunate accident that he had, and I think it's more or less just the wound itself that is not healed completely, from what I understand. So part of that is, you know, sliding.
Yeah.
You know, getting used to that. But he's hitting and he's fielding. So he's getting closer and closer. I just don't know exactly when, you know, the wound's going to heal and stuff like that. But he's doing I keep asking him daily, let's put it that way, if he's ready to go, you know, because he would be a great addition to our team.
Where do you think someone like Peterson fits into this team? Obviously, there's still, like you said, there's some roster shifting, but this is a guy that was once, you know, a few years ago, Miguel Andujar for the Braves organization or the Padres organization. Where do you think he fits in?
Yeah, I was with the Braves when he signed over there with the Braves and came over from the Padres, and I was impressed. I mean, with the way he went about his business, the way he played second base. I think he's more or less a second baseman than shortstop. They had Simmons at the time too, so he was playing second. and he's a gamer. I mean, he gets out there and plays hard and does a lot of good stuff for you, and he's a great teammate and stuff. But I didn't see a lot of him there, but he's going to move around too. He's going to play the outfield some, you know, and I know he wants to do that. He's going to play some short probably, you know. You got Avellino moving around a lot of different places, so he fits in really nice, and his versatility really helps. I think it helps his value, obviously, and not only on our team but the big league level too. So, you know, I know he struggled a little bit during spring, but spring, you know, we don't put a lot of credence into spring much. When lights go on and he gets out here, I'm sure he'll be fine. But he's going to move around a lot and play a lot of different positions.
You mentioned Mark before, Mark Payton, and this was a good, especially the way that things happened with the outfield with the Yankees. It could have been someone that they could have called upon when after McKinney goes down. And he's such a good guy for like the clubhouse, and a guy who's really grinded his way through the Yankees organization. What's it like to see someone like that have that setback to a knee injury? He's already had a degree of that knee injury in the past.
Yeah. I love the kid, you know, as a player, as a person, and it was kind of a setback for him, you know, because it was kind of, I know he'd had issues before, like you say. He just happened to step weird and turn his knee a little bit, and then he tried to see the doctor, and they weren't sure they were going to have surgery or not, and so he kind of set him back a little bit because it wasn't definite he was going to have surgery, so maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks later he's going to have surgery. So it's not like a real like an injury that will keep him down too long. I'm going to say 2 months probably around there, probably at the beginning of end of May or something, you know, and because he's going to have to probably takes 6 weeks sometimes with them in cartilage and meniscus, whatever it is, and then you got to get baseballs back. So I'm hoping to get him back as soon as possible because he can do a lot of things, you know. He can do so much for you, you know, and he's in a great role, you know, for us to because he can not play and then he goes in there and does really well, kind of thing, you know, and he deserves everything he gets in this game for sure.
Thank you.
And that was our interview with Tommy Romanelli and Scranton manager Bobby Mitchel. But Tommy, I want to get some feedback from you. So, how was media day, and what's the aura, and what's the the aura around the Scranton RailRiders right now?
Yeah, well, media day was a really great experience this year. It was a really great opportunity getting to meet Bobby Mitchel. I think that he's going to do an amazing job with this team this year, because the RailRiders roster is one that's always in flux. It's going to be changing. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 weeks from now there's 6 guys that are different on the roster than they'll start with this Friday. But it's the thing about Mitchel is he is extremely well spoken and he's an extremely down to earth guy. So I think that when you're handling a lot of the players that are going to be one step away or just one phone call away from getting called up to the Yankees, it's going to be really important to have a manager with a level head like that, and just to be able to get their head right, and so that they could come up and produce. And a lot of these guys, Bobby Mitchel has already coached, and I think that that's going to go a long way into helping their development, because they're going to be comfortable with their manager. They are, and as Bobby said, you probably heard it in the interview, he said that a lot of these guys already know what his management style is, so they're not going to have to come in here and learn that. Because of that, they're going to be able to focus on one thing, and that's their own development. So I think it's going to be really important. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of job that Bobby does this year.
Definitely, that's good. Now, do you foresee any? Because he's managed some of these guys before, do you think that the message needs to be tweaked a little bit so we can fight some complacency?
No, I don't think that's going to be a problem at all, because even though they're familiar with him, him included, this is an entirely new challenge for everybody that he's been through. They are closer than they've ever been to achieving their dream. So if there's any kind of complacency, I would honestly say shame on them at that point. But I think that because of what everybody's working towards and because it's a new scenery, that's going to keep everybody fresh and focused on their goal. And honestly, another impression that I got was, while it's probably the most important goal to everybody in that clubhouse, going up to the majors isn't exactly every focus. The RailRiders have gone to the Governor's Cup 2 years in a row now, and Bobby Mitchell is coming off of going the 2 appearances in the Eastern League title game. So I think that there's a lot of stress on getting back to the playoffs and getting back to where a winning culture that every player is used to at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So now I'm looking at this team. If you guys that are listening out there, Tommy had a great article on PinstripeProspects.com where he put together the tentative roster, as Tommy alluded to before, because the Yankees have made some roster moves, adding Trace Thompson and David Ash. So the roster's still being filled out. But Tommy, were there any surprises? Were there any surprise additions to this roster, or how about there's any prospect surprises that players that weren't added to the roster?
Yeah, I don't know that there was any surprises per se, mostly because with all the injuries and guys who made the team like Wade and Andujar that are up there now, I think that they had to kind of piece together Scranton's roster to start the year. I would say that, a player to absolutely keep an eye on this year is going to be Domingo German in the RailRiders rotation, because and not so much as a break. He's already shown what he can do, but I think the stuff is good enough to play at the major league level. So all the eyes are going to be on Gleyber Torres and Chance Adams, but I think that Domingo German Herman. I apologize. I just pulled a Paul. So, but yeah, so I think Herman is going to be a pitcher that really steps up his game this year, improves his worth. But guys that I've always had my eye on for the last year or so is guys like Heller, who's going to start the year in the 60-day DL, but definitely looking forward to when he comes back. But more so JP Fireisen, because I think that that's a player that has kind of not been able to show what he can do yet. I think that he has the stuff to be a really good middle reliever in the majors, and I look for him to take the biggest step out of anybody on that team this year.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I would say that too. I feel like Fireisen is usually the forgotten man in that Andrew Miller trade too, so it's going to be good. The Yankees can get contributions from all 4 players that they received from the Indians, so that's great. It seems like Scranton is gearing up for another successful season. We're going to work our way right down to our Trenton Thunder specialist, Matt Cardos. Matt, how was Media Day?
Media Day was pretty productive on all ends. It was good to get acquainted a little bit. Obviously, we have a new manager down there. As Tommy just said, Bobby Mitchell, who we've gotten used to down there for the last 2 years, got the well-deserved bump up to Scranton after Al Padrique left this winter. So the opening was there. It was only logical. Bobby's won almost 180 games the last 2 years down in Trenton, with a lot of the core that he has up there now in Scranton. So the logical projection was to have him up there. So we obviously have Jay Bell now, who had a successful first year in the organization last year with Tampa, took the team to the playoffs. And obviously now a lot of the core that's going to serve as the Trenton roster this year are guys that Jay Bell had his hands on. I think Jay said yesterday of the preliminary roster that we were given yesterday with the 26 guys on it, Jay has touched 20 of those 26 guys at some point in his year in the organization. So he's certainly very familiar with the guys that he's going to have under his fingertips this season. And my first impressions of Jay was obviously he's a well-known name, not just in the Yankees organization, but all around baseball. A guy who played for 18 years, had a couple all-star caliber seasons in the big leagues as a second baseman. I think most Yankee fans remember him scoring the winning run in the Yankees World Series loss when Mariano blew it against the Diamondbacks in 2001. Bell actually crossed home plate as the winning run in that game. So it's kind of fitting that a lot of people believe that was the end of the Yankees dynasty, and now Jay Bell finds himself right in the middle of maybe this next dynasty. So it's kind of come full circle for him. So fiery guy, very energetic. You could tell he's super knowledgeable about the game. He's battle tested. He alluded to the fact that he played for Jim Leland in his early days in Pittsburgh, a guy who's one of the more revered managers in baseball history. He says pretty much every stop that he's made, every manager that he's played for, teammates that he's had, successful guys, that he's kind of become a manager just based on everything he's learned is what he puts into his managerial philosophies. So he said he likes to play a vanilla game, back to the basics. He likes to teach the intangibles, bunting, getting on base, taking the extra base, all the little things that go into making a good baseball player a great baseball player. So definitely should be an exciting year with a guy that I'm looking forward to getting to know a little bit more.
Absolutely. That's great. AA is definitely a very good instructional, and it's a good level for players to develop and hone their skills. So having a strong manager, having a strong guy at the helm is great. And if you're listening, definitely head over to the revamped PinstripeProspects.com to check out Matt's article on his Trenton Thunder notebook. It was great. Now, Matt, same question that I asked to Tommy, I'm going to swing it over to you. Who are you most looking forward to seeing? I know that there's going to be a very strong rotation down in Trenton, at least to start the season, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's guys, obviously, it's going to be headlined by Domingo Acevedo and Justice Sheffield are the two big names that are there, the two biggest names on the roster, and they're going to be the top two starters in that rotation. A guy that I'm really looking forward to, and he was up for just a little bit, pretty much for the playoff run last year, is Dylan Tate. This is the guy that he was first-round pick of the Rangers only 3 years ago. They got him as the piece in return for Carlos Beltran 2 summers ago. Has battled some injuries and inconsistencies early on in his career, but he's fully healthy. Only got a brief look at him last year, so I'm super interested to see how he's going to fare. And obviously, Jay Bell said yesterday that he thinks AA is the biggest test for a prospect. It kind of separates the guys that are going to be big leaguers from the guys that are just an ordinary prospect. So I'm interested to see how Tate is going to fare in a full season against advanced pitching. Being fully healthy and the first full year in the organization in the upper levels. I'm super excited to see, because this is a high ceiling guy. So if he fulfills his potential, they project as a top 1, 2, or 3 type starter up in the big league. So I think this is going to be a big year in his development.
I couldn't agree more. And Dylan Tate was actually a guy that we highlighted last time when we said players who impressed us in minor league spring training. And if you guys want to see some more videos of Dylan Tate and some of the guys that we're mentioning here, head over to PinstripeProspects.com and also head over to our YouTube page, where we're putting up content every day in video, high-def video of a lot of these prospects that you guys are seeing. Now, Matt, final question. Who do you think that was left off? I know, we had a kind of healthy debate, Paul and I and Rob last week, about Esteban Florio. Were you surprised to see Florio left off the AA roster?
I wasn't. Early on in the winter, in my early projections, I think I had him in Trenton, but the more I thought about it, and his performance in the Arizona Fall League left a lot to be desired. Didn't look like he was kind of ready for that advanced level yet, and facing advanced pitching. The strikeouts were high, the walks were low. Pretty much every time he gets a hit, it feels like it's a triple from everything he did in the Arizona Fall League. Even his performance in big league camp, the short time he was there, struggles to get on base. Strikeouts are too high. So the more I saw him during the Fall League and big league camp, I kind of came to the realization that he's probably going to start in Tampa. But I think if he shows that he's improved even a little bit, I think the jump is going to come pretty quickly. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Trenton before June rolls around. I think maybe sometime by late May, maybe even earlier than that. But I don't think his stay in Tampa will be too long if he proves that he's advanced in that level, and that he's really has nothing left to prove at that level. So I think they plan on moving him pretty quickly from down in Tampa. But I wouldn't say that it's a shock that he didn't start there.
Okay. All right. So basically, you're saying don't get used to seeing Esteban Florio over here at the George.
That would be my guess.
Gotcha. All right, so listen, it looks like the Trenton Thunder gearing up for another successful season, back-to-back division titles. So, what are your projections for the team as a whole, just going into the season now? What do you see them?
It's hard to really say when you go into a AA season, just because the rosters turn over so much. As Tommy said, I mean, the Scranton RailRiders roster, they call it the Scranton shuttle. You have bullpen guys going up and down, injuries happen, and that of course causes a domino effect everywhere else in the system. So one guy goes up from Scranton, another guy from Trenton goes up. So you never really know how long guys are going to be in the places where they start. Obviously, the rotation that Trenton is starting with, guys like Acevedo and Sheffield, I wouldn't expect them to be in Trenton for very long at all. Maybe a month, maybe a little bit longer than that. But the good thing about that is there's more guys on the way down in Tampa. You have an Albert Abreu waiting in the wings, who I think is fairly close to AA. You have a guy like Fraser Perez, who's a high prospect that obviously he's going into high A for the first time, so I don't think he's immediately on the way, but he's still a reinforcement that could move if he performs well. So you have a lot of pitching depth that can come up from Tampa and fill in the holes. Obviously, I think Florial is going to be there, so I think he'll give them a boost. So I don't think it's always where you start in the minor leagues. It's who you're going to have when you finish. So I would expect a lot of the guys who help lead Tampa to wherever they get this year are probably going to be the guys that are on Trenton, helping them gear up for a potential playoff run. But I think on paper, to start the season, I think they have a pretty solid, well-rounded roster. Jay Bell said the strength is unquestionably the pitching staff between the rotation and the deep bullpen. The bullpen can go 6 or 7 guys deep with quality arms. So I think if they win early and set the tone and get some wiggle room in the standings, I think they could distance themselves by the time they get some of these position players healthy. Obviously, guys like Kyle Holder and Jeff Hendricks, who are starting the year on the DL, they're projected to be in Trenton when they're healthy. That'll definitely give their offense a boost to go with Gittins and Imbergery and Jylon Jackson and guys like that. So I think it's all going to have to play itself out. But, I mean, if you project the guys that should end up there and coupled with the guys that they're starting with, I think they should be right in the mix to repeat as division champions again.
Strong stuff, Matt. Strong stuff. That's our AA Trenton Thunder Media Day recap. But I want to switch it over right now to Low A Charleston. And we have audio. We have an interview that our own Joseph Dixon, our beat writer for Low A Charleston, did with Justin Pope, who is the pitching coach for the Low A Charleston RiverDogs. And we're going to segue right into that right now.
So obviously this year, just going to look at the roster a little bit, you have, let's start with the hometown kid, JP Sears.
Yep.
You guys got him in the trade with Rumbelow, of course, for Rumbelow. So what can you tell me about him? Did you watch him pitch at the Citadel last year at all, or did you?
No, I never did. I heard a lot of things about him. I wish I would have come out and watched him pitch. But I mean, yeah, you hear, Friday nights they had this lefty that pitched for him, and every time he pitched, they had a good chance to win. But just really never had the chance to come out and watch him pitch. But I had a chance to watch him pitch in spring training quite a bit, and really excited to see what he's going to do during the season, because he's got really good stuff. He gets a lot of swings and misses on his fastball, good breaking ball, and a changeup to go with it, and he's a great kid. So it's going to be fun to watch him, especially pitching in his ballpark where he played in college. So it's going to be fun to watch him.
And we have Anderson Severino here. What can you tell us about him? Because
good arm. Yeah, he's got a really good arm, lively fastball. I mean, he gets up into upper 90s, really good curveball, and a really good changeup. Biggest thing with him is throwing strikes. So if he can throw strikes, he's gonna do well.
And we also, let's see here. Give me 1 second. We talked about Sears. And Glenn Otto, he was another specific pitcher I wanted to give your thoughts on, because he's really been really had a good year last year, and of course he's making the step up this year. He wasn't really highly touted, but he's been kind of turning some heads in spring training and such.
Yeah, another one with a good arm. First start with his curveball, which he can really spin his curveballs. I mean, it's really sharp, late break, bite, a lot of bite to it, swing and miss pitch. And his fastball, he's got some really nice attributes to his fastball. He's able to pitch up in the zone when he wants to, but he also can locate the ball down. And he's going to be another interesting one to watch, especially once he starts, getting into a rhythm and a nice routine, because he's never really started before, so it's going to be kind of new to him. But once he kind of figures out what he needs to do in between starts to be ready for his start, I think he's really going to take off.
And of course, Sears and Otto are a couple of the starters that we know of. Who else is in the rotation? Who's going to be your number one and kind of go down from there?
Yeah, I guess it's going to open tonight. It's going to be Whitlock, Garrett Whitlock. I don't know if you want to consider number one, but open tonight would be Garrett Whitlock. And then Otto, game 2. Game 3 is Nick Nelson. Game 4 is Dalton Lennon. Game 5 will be Daniel Ramos. And then game 6 will be J.P. Sears. J.P. Sears will piggyback Whitlock in game 1, and then he'll take over game 6.
Now, with the 6-man rotation, is that something you're planning to do the whole season, or is it just for the early season before kind of some of the other teams start up?
That's above my pay grade to answer. No, that's something that they kind of do with the lower levels, especially the first half of the season until the short season teams start. Because a lot of these guys have never pitched in a 5-day, 6-day, 5-man or 6-man rotation, so it's kind of a way to ease them into it. But yeah, that's kind of something that the organization decides on.
And Nick Nelson, you brought him up last year. You had him, of course, here. It seemed like he struggled with his control mainly. Yep. He has good movement, good action on his pitches, but especially his fastball. I think he throws a curveball, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he struggled with his command. So, what has he been doing to try to fix that issue, and how have you helped him with that?
Yeah, work on his command. Another one. He's got a really good arm. I think, pitching the full season last year, staying here all year, it's going to give him experience. So I think he's going to come into this year and have a nice year. Really with him, he's got a really nice delivery. A lot of it is just kind of being able to control his delivery, not getting, not speeding up or maybe trying to do too much or overthrow, just staying within himself. And once he learns how to do that, once he learns how to control his effort, he's going to be good. And he's going to be able to command his fastball much better than he has been.
And with the bullpen here, do you have any easier for me to say, distinct roles set up, or?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, that's something Julio and I we're gonna need to sit down today, tomorrow, even on Wednesday, try to figure out who we want in what role, or even if it's for the first week, 10 days of the season, kind of feeling guys out, getting guys' feet wet, and then them kind of defining their roles themselves.
And you mentioned Whitlock will be one of your starters.
Yep.
Let's see here. He was at. Let's see here. It looks like he was actually GCL in Pulaski.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about Garrett?
Works really quick, so it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him pitch, which is nice. That really helps the defense when you work quick. But yeah, he works quick. He hammers the strike zone. He has a 2-seam and a 4-seam fastball. Again, he can move the ball in and out. Got a nice little slider and a nice little changeup that goes with it too. And again, he's got an opportunity to do well also. Just because his stuff's well, and he knows how to pitch, and he gets the ball and going. He's not afraid to pitch away from contact.
Kind of like Sears in a way.
Yeah, kind of like Sears. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you mentioned Daniel Ramos. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. He was at Pulaski as well last year on that playoff team as well.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Daniel?
Fastball, curveball, changeup. He's got some good movement with his fastball. Cuts a little bit when his timing's right and everything matches up in his delivery. Really good curveball, and then still working on his changeup. But another one that, as long as he kind of doesn't try to do too much and fills up the strike zone, he's got an opportunity to do well too. So he's a good kid and works hard. So it's gonna be fun and interesting to see him pitch and see how he does.
And who do we miss in the starting rotation here? So we talked about
Dalton Lennon.
Oh yeah. That was
mm-hmm.
Yep. Let's see here. So Dalton, he's also Gulf Coast and Pulaski, split time between those two places.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about him?
He's kind of like a poor man's Andy Pettit. He's got a fastball, again, that has good attributes, has a little cut action to it, gets, spin. He's got tight spin to his fastball. Curveball, it's, some days it's really good, it's just kind of inconsistent. He's got to work on that consistency with his curveball, and then he's got a good changeup too that he throws over the plate. And again, like I said, he's a poor man's Andy Pettit, so it's going to be fun to watch him pitch and develop.
And does he have the same pickoff move?
I don't know. Yeah, I hope so. It'd be nice, but I only watched him pitch a couple times in spring training, and The one time he pitched, I don't think anybody got on. So.
And speaking of spring training, did you have a chance to work with a lot of these guys during spring training? I mean, typically, how does that go?
Yeah, some of the guys are they're up at like the Tampa work group, and obviously I'm down in the Charleston work group. So, in spring training, it's kind of tough because there's so many bodies and guys are trying to get their work in. But yeah, I mean, you talk to them just to start building that relationship. I think in spring training it's more of building that relationship. So once the season does roll around, now you've already built that relationship. Now you guys can start working together of developing and getting better. So unless it's a guy that you've had in the past and have already built that relationship, it's kind of spring training for me is getting to know guys, and then once we get to the season, we hit the ground running.
Yeah, and you bring up building relationships and such. One of the things I remember Nick Green, Garrett Mundell last year spoke about was the type of like your philosophy, whereas you're almost like not only friends.
Yes.
You're not only a pitching coach, you're a mentor and a friend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's for me, all these guys, it's so much more than baseball. I mean, baseball's such. Yeah, they're here to get better and develop and hopefully pitch in the big leagues, but not everybody's going to pitch in the big leagues. So what are we going to do to help these guys develop as young men, to give them a chance, if baseball doesn't work out, to prepare them for their future if it doesn't work out, So I mean, it's so much more than baseball for me. I mean, personal stuff going on at home, and you're away from your families, and it's such a grind. 140 games. A lot of these guys, it's their first full season. Nicks and bruises, not sure how to deal with it. So I mean, you're there for them and help them. You've experienced what they're going through, so hopefully the experience that you have gone through, you're able to pass some information on to them to help them out.
And obviously you've been pitching coach here for a few years now, and you've always had one of the best staffs in the league, it seems like. Is there any specific philosophy or any reasons that you think is not only just hard work, but philosophy or anything else, mindset?
The players, it's a player's game. They go out and they do well. I mean, they work hard. Again, I'm just a small part of it. Again, I just try to pass on information that I've learned, that I believe in, and they take it in. But again, it's not just a one-way street. It's two ways. I talk, they talk. That's part of building the relationship. So if a guy's doing something, talk to him. It's like, hey, how do you feel about this? What do you feel about this? There's more than one way to play this game. So it's kind of, it's learning everybody how their body works, what works for them, and kind of just help them out that way. But then once they get on the mound, you talk to them about competing and executing pitches. So.
And obviously this year, another new manager, third straight year. Third, 3 years, three managers.
Right, yep.
So how has it been to work with Julio so far? And considering he's coming from Staten Island, where a lot of these guys, are coming from, does that help out as well?
Yeah, definitely, because he knows a lot of these guys. Again, going back to that relationship aspect, he's already built a relationship with a lot of these guys, so they feel comfortable with Julio as a manager, and whenever he says something, they're going to listen. Not that they don't listen to other managers, but again, they've trust him. They've already built that relationship with them, so it makes it a lot easier when you have players that have played for that manager in the previous year. It just helps them it helps them make them feel a little more comfortable, because you know how he's going to act during a game. Some guys are one way during spring training, but once the season starts and the games start, they kind of change. With Julio, he's the same person, so I think that's going to help these kids, and it's going to help them not relax but ease a little bit, and that way they can focus on playing well.
And one final question here, Justin. I really appreciate your time. So with this level of single A here, you get a lot of roster movement, obviously. So how do you adapt to that, and basically how does that kind of make your job more challenging, or kind of what's your thoughts on that?
A lot of movement, but it's it's talking to the pitching coaches either from Staten Island or Pulaski if they're coming from extended. It's talking to those guys of what they're working on, certain keys that they've been working on with those guys, so that when they come here, they kind of just keep working on the same thing. Same thing if it's a guy that for some reason is getting sent down, talk to the Tampa pitching coach and ask him, what you've been working on, where's he at mindset-wise. So first it starts off with you're communicating with the pitching coaches of what they're working with, where the kid is, with his mindset. But then, also it's going back to maybe in spring training, again, maybe starting to build that relationship. Just even if he's not in your work group, but it's like, hey, how's it going today? Just to kind of show them that you care. It's not just always about baseball, but then also the video work too. It's we have video at our hand, so if you hear someone's getting called up, sent down, you go right to the video and kind of see what he's doing delivery wise or pitch execution, whatever it may be. So you kind of have an idea what he's doing, what he's working with, or what he has to work on when he comes here.
And that was our interview, our own Joe Dixon interviewing Justin Pope. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I just want to let you guys know that all of the minor league affiliates, this is opening week, guys. So if you are near an affiliate and want to get your fill of, the up-and-coming Yankee stars, this week is the time to get on board. Also, if you're not near an affiliate, head over to pinstripeprospects.com. We have an updated player base. We always updating information. Video content, written content is always going to be at your disposal. For the podcast, like, comment, and subscribe. And tell us how we're doing. Tell us what you want us to work on. Tell us what you love. Also, I would like to thank Velocity 5, our sponsor, for Mr. Paul Pagnato III, Matt Cardos, Tommy Romanelli, and our producer, Robert Pimsner. I'm your host for this week, Amari Brown. Thank you for listening to the Pinstripe Prospects Podcast.